Welcome to Naka Gist. I met her when we were just 16. We were kids, full of hope, hormones, and dreams too big for our little world. From the very first time I saw her, standing near the vending machine in that faded school hallway, tying her curly hair into a ponytail, I knew I was done for. She had this laugh that turned heads and this smile that made everything else fade into background noise. I asked her out 2 weeks later. She said yes. And that yes became everything to me. We grew up together, studied together, slept over each other's homes. Her dad was a police officer, strict but warm when he wanted to be. My family was more broken, mom in and out of hospitals, dad gone before I was even old enough to form a memory. Her family became my stability. By the time we hit 18, we were inseparable. Everyone in school joked that we were going to end up married. And maybe they were right. Or maybe we were too dumb to know better. But I loved her. God, I loved her. What I didn't know then, and what would unravel my entire world later, was that somewhere between 18 and 20, while I was busy juggling part-time jobs, scholarships, and night classes to build a future for us, she was cheating on me. Repeatedly. She told me she was working overtime at her campus job. She'd text things like, "Long shift tonight, don't wait up." And I'd reply with the same stupid blind trust every time, "Okay babe, be safe. Love you." Meanwhile, she was out with another man. 3 times. All with the same guy, a friend of her brother's. A black dude she said was just a gym friend. Guess the workouts extended into the bedroom too. I didn't know any of this at the time. Not one shred. Because I believed in her. I believed in the idea of us. We got into the same university. Different majors, but we moved into a little off-campus apartment together by sophomore year. That's when it got worse. She started pulling away, emotionally, physically. Sex was rare. Her eyes wandered in public, but I chalked it up to stress. I didn't know then, but she cheated 4 more times during those university years. All with different guys. She'd say I wasn't present, that I was always tired. Of course I was tired. I was busting my ass so we could afford rent. Meanwhile, she was out partying, meeting up with randoms, hiding messages under fake contact names like study group and thesis partner. I found none of it. Not back then. Not until much later. After college, I got into tech. Started building small tools and web platforms with my foster brother, Jay. She worked in marketing, and for a while, life felt stable again. We were both making decent money. We went out more. We talked about the future, marriage, kids, a home. At 26, I proposed. I thought it was the happiest day of my life. She cried. Said yes. Jumped into my arms. I didn't know she slept with the same man, the one from college, again that same week. I didn't know our wedding night would also be the scene of her 7th betrayal. That while I was asleep in our hotel suite, exhausted from a long day of celebration and love, she snuck out and spent the early hours of our marriage in another man's bed. We had our first child a year later. A beautiful little girl. 2 years after that, our son came along. By then, I was knee-deep in running 3 companies with Jay. Our apps were being bought out, contracts were coming in, investments rolling. I made sure our finances looked normal on the outside. No lavish spending, no sudden spikes. Just in case things ever went wrong. Still, I kept the real wealth quiet. She didn't know we were worth over $38 million. I told her we were doing well, yes, but nothing extravagant. Just enough to live comfortably. That way, we avoided pressure, jealousy, or stress. I thought I was protecting our marriage. I thought I was protecting her. Then came the moment everything started to crumble. I was in my home office one night, reviewing documents for a new acquisition, when I got an email from Jay. Congrats, brother, $38 million locked in. My eyes widened. I didn't even think. I clicked the email, scrolled through the legal summaries, and just sat there for a full 5 minutes staring at the screen. I'd kept this quiet for years. She never asked about the business much. Never seemed interested. Now we had money, real money, and something in my gut twisted. The next day, she started acting weird. Extra nice. Extra attentive. Then, over dinner, she casually brought up divorce. Not because I don't love you, she said. We've just grown apart. I think we both need a new chapter. That was the moment everything inside me shifted. I stared at her, blinked, tried to process what she was really saying. This woman, the one I gave my youth, my dreams, my loyalty to, wanted to walk out. The timing was too suspicious. She didn't know I saw the email, but she knew I was successful. Maybe she'd found out more than I thought. I played it cool. Agreed we could talk about it later. Said I needed to sleep on it. That night, I barely slept. The next morning, I hired a private investigator. I didn't want to. I hated myself for it. It felt like betrayal. But something told me I needed answers. And answers came. Oh, they came hard and fast. He brought me photos, messages, recordings, logs. 11 affairs. 11. The same guy from college had reappeared during one of her business trips. That made 3 total with him. Her father, her cop father, had helped them move around to avoid small-town scandals. He'd even helped cover up a hotel incident involving one of her hookups when she was 19. Her family had known parts of this all along. And they'd helped bury it. The final punch to the gut. The PI suggested a paternity test for both children. Something felt off, he said. I resisted. 4 days, I couldn't do it. But finally, I gave in. One child was mine. The other wasn't. And the child that wasn't mine? The one I rocked to sleep every night for 5 years, sang lullabies to, held during feverish nights, that little girl I called my daughter? She was Martin's. The same man from our wedding week. The same man she'd been seeing on and off for over a decade. I collapsed. I remember lying on the bathroom floor, shaking. My whole world spun out from under me. But I didn't break. I couldn't. I had to think. I had to protect my son, and myself. I filed for divorce, quietly. I submitted all evidence through my lawyer. We invoked the prenup she forgot she signed, back when I was broke and cautious. The clause about infidelity voiding her claim to assets was airtight. In court, she looked broken, pale, sweaty. Her father sat behind her, not meeting my eyes. I presented everything, cheating, DNA, messages, photos, her own voice on calls. Even her attempts to manipulate my bank records. It was all on paper. Her lawyer tried to spin it, called it emotional neglect, claimed mental illness. Said I was financially secretive, which somehow drove her to find validation elsewhere. But the judge wasn't buying it. He ruled in my favor. Fully. She got nothing. No alimony. No assets. I retained 100% of the $38 million and full custody of my biological son. As for the daughter I raised, it tore me apart. But the court deemed the situation complex. I allowed her to stay under strict legal guardianship, mostly for the child's sake. But emotionally, I couldn't be her father anymore. The woman who was once my everything ended up being charged with fraud, perjury, and contempt. She had a breakdown in court. Her mental state deteriorated quickly. She was placed under temporary psych hold, later transferred to a long-term psychiatric facility. Martin, the man she cheated with the most, had his own day in court. He was found guilty of fraud and obstruction for his role in manipulating business documents to gain financial information about my holdings. His serving 2 years. Her family, once proud and polished, cut ties with her. Her father retired early in disgrace. They told the community it was mental illness, hoping that would explain the fallout, that it would allow me to move on without stigma. And in a way, I did. I moved into a quieter home. Just me and my son. I kept the wealth quiet still, funneled most of it into trusts for him. I started mentoring young boys who came from broken homes. I wrote a book under a pseudonym. Forgiveness was slow, but it came. I visited her once in the facility. She didn't speak much, just looked at me like she knew, finally knew, what she'd lost. I told her I forgave her. Not for her, but for me. Revenge burned hot, but healing was the ember I held onto. In the end, I didn't just lose a wife. I lost the illusion of what love had meant to me. But I gained clarity, strength, and a chance to give my son a better example of what love should look like. We fly kites now. We plant tomatoes in the backyard. We laugh without tension. Sometimes, late at night, I sit by the window, sipping tea, and I wonder, how did I not see it sooner? But then I remind myself, love makes fools of us all. And fools who survive? They become warriors. Don't remember falling asleep that night. I just remember the numbness, like my whole soul went quiet. My body moved through the motions, get our son ready, answer emails, check security footage, smile politely at the barista, but I wasn't really there. I was back in that hallway, hearing her lie with ease, watching her fake a life with me. I thought knowing the truth would give me power, maybe even peace, but instead it cracked me open in a place that hadn't been touched since I was a kid in foster care, looking at empty chairs on visiting days. It's strange how betrayal rearranges your memories. Like, I'd be sitting on the porch drinking coffee and suddenly remember a moment from 8 years ago, her laughing with a coworker a little too hard at a barbecue. I used to think it was harmless. Now, I saw her hand lingering, his eyes trailing down her body, the small guilt on her face as she caught me watching. I kept digging, even when it hurt. The private investigator came through with everything. Timelines, photos, hotel receipts, encrypted messages. One night I sat in my office with a folder full of her life, more detailed than anything I ever knew before. She wasn't just unfaithful, she was methodical. Her father, that smug man with the badge, had scrubbed police reports, buried hotel incidentals, even threatened a few exes to keep them quiet. This wasn't just a bad wife. This was generational rot hiding behind Sunday morning pancakes. I stared at the paternity test longer than I should have. Our oldest, Josh, he wasn't mine. The DNA results said 0% match. My hand didn't shake. My heart didn't race. I just sat there and let the silence wrap around me. I thought about the night he was born. I'd cried. I remember holding him in my arms, vowing I'd never let him feel abandoned like I did. I didn't throw the folder away. I didn't burn the test. I locked them up in a safe and poured myself a glass of whiskey. Not because I needed to drink, but because I needed to taste the bitterness in something other than my throat. She filed for divorce 2 weeks later. She served the papers with a smug smile, already imagining her half of the fortune. I let her believe she had the upper hand. That was my first act of war, silence. My legal team, including my foster brother and business partner, was already 10 steps ahead. We had airtight prenups, signed twice during the course of our marriage. She had insisted back then that they were just formalities, eager to play the supportive wife. Now, she was trying to claim they were coerced, invalid. But here's the thing about narcissists, they forget cameras exist. I had footage of her happily signing the documents, even toasting to it with champagne. The courtroom was cold, sterile. She strutted in with her father behind her, like he could save her again. I didn't even look her way. I focused on my son, sitting at the back with my assistant. He deserved better than this mess, better than a broken home filled with fake smiles. She tried playing the victim, claimed emotional neglect, said I was always working. The judge wasn't impressed. My team presented her affair logs, the hotel rendezvous, the wedding night betrayal. Yes, wedding night. Turns out she snuck out while I slept and met up with her ex in a parking lot. There was even a photo. That one burned into me the most. When we dropped the paternity test, the courtroom went silent. Her face crumpled for the first time. She cried, pleaded, tried to say it didn't matter, that love was more than blood. And maybe that would have worked if she hadn't used that same kid as a pawn for money. The judge ruled in my favor. She got nothing. Not half. Not a car. Not even the house. Her father tried to appeal, but the evidence of his corruption got him suspended. The man who once bragged about protecting family was now on the news, labeled a disgrace to the force. Her affair partner, the repeat offender? Turned out he had an illegal background of his own. Drug trafficking, financial scams. We tipped off the authorities with documented proof. He's now serving 10 years. I didn't even have to lift a finger. Karma handled him with handcuffs. And Josh, my not son, I didn't send him away. I couldn't. He didn't ask for this mess. But things changed. He lives in the guest house now, has a curfew, chores, structure. I told him the truth when he was ready. I didn't lie. I didn't sugarcoat it. I told him I would always protect him, but that trust was something earned. He cried for days. And then he started cleaning the dishes without being asked. I took that as a start. As for her, she spiraled. She moved in with a cousin, tried to rebuild. But the stain of public humiliation stuck. She lost her job, couldn't keep friends, and eventually was arrested after slapping a cashier during a breakdown. They took her to a psych ward. Last I heard, she was diagnosed with a personality disorder, something her family always suspected but kept under wraps. They begged me to let her see the kids. I refused. Not out of spite, but because I needed to protect them. I still think about the good years. About late-night talks under the stars, our first car ride, her laugh before it became a weapon. I mourn the version of her that maybe never existed. But I also found peace in truth. Because healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means facing the mirror and choosing to live anyway. Some nights I walk past the safe with a folder inside. I don't open it. I don't need to anymore. My life is quieter now. My real son thrives in school. My businesses grow. I've started dating again, slowly, cautiously. And while I don't fully trust yet, I've learned to trust myself. There's a kind of freedom in surviving betrayal. Not because it doesn't hurt, but because you learn that even after everything is stolen, your love, your years, your illusions, you're still here. Still standing. Still building. And sometimes that's the most powerful revenge of all.